Welcome back to part 2 of this series where I talk about the mindset and the investing habits of a millionaire. My name is Monish, chartered accountant, lives here in Australia, and over the years I've realized that my real passion lies in inspiring through my writing and these videos. In part 1, I discussed the habits, and today all we're going to talk about is investing and how you can even invest a very little amount and make your money work for you. As I mentioned in part 1, these are real life examples. I'm not going to talk about I read this in a particular book and I read something else in a particular book. This is something that I have applied myself and something that has worked very well for me. So let's dig into it. According to me, the biggest flaw in the education system is that it does not tell you how to invest and how to save money. It doesn't tell us if you like Nikes, go buy the share of Nike. If you like Apple, go buy shares of Apple. If you like Tesla, go buy the shares of Tesla. It teaches you about history, geography, maths, and all those things which are very important, but it fails to teach us the importance of saving and investing. In our early 20s, when we first start earning a wage, we have absolutely no idea what to do with it. We have all this money, we have this freedom, and we just don't know how to use it and how to invest it. So a lot of us, me included, go and buy things that we think will make us happy. The biggest mistake I made in my 20s is that I got really excited about buying a car, and as soon as I got an accounting job here in Melbourne, I went and bought a car for $30,000. Now, at the time, it felt really good because growing up, I always wanted a Honda for some weird reason. I know kids want Mercedes and Ferraris and all that, but I wanted a Honda because I could not afford a Honda in my early years. It was something that I did to please my ego. It was very exciting at first. I was very thrilled, but as soon as that novelty wore off, all I was left with was the repayments of the car. And if I had used those repayments, if I'd bought a smaller car, for example, of say $6,000 or $10,000, I could actually afford the car and the repayments, and I would be able to make my investments as well. But because my repayments were such a huge part of my income, I could not manage to invest money in my early 20s, and that was the biggest mistake I made from a financial perspective. So rule number 1, in your early 20s, don't buy a depreciating asset, but try to buy an appreciating asset like property or shares. Now that brings me to my second point. You can have as much as money as you want, but if you don't spend it on things that you enjoy, you are never going to be happy, and that defeats the entire purpose of investment and trying to be rich or wealthy. What I mean by that is that your investment strategy must reflect who you are. So the first thing I did was try to figure out who am I and where do I want to spend my money. I went back and I thought about all the times that I was really happy in life, and I realized that all those times I was actually traveling somewhere with a friend, or I was away from where my normal place of residence was. Probably that's why I even came here to Australia in hindsight, I don't know. So what I did when my car repayments got over was that I did not stop transferring that money out of my bank account, but I transferred the exact amount to an appreciating asset. I transferred it to a managed fund. So every week I transferred $100, a small percentage of my income, to this managed fund. Over a year, that was $5,200. Over 2 years, $10,400. But that appreciated by 20% a year. And after 2 years, I had like around 40% return from that managed fund. I had made up my mind that this money is only for traveling. It is only to satisfy my thirst for traveling. And don't tell me you can't have a good European holiday with $15,000 or $16,000. So I had an absolute blast traveling to Europe with that money, and all I did was I saved a small part of my income every single week into this managed fund, and I realized that I have made my own money work for me. Now, if I didn't have that understanding, I could have spent that money, say, shopping or drinking or buying a new car or doing anything of that sort, which would bring me happiness, but it would not really make me truly happy. Traveling to me always is the number one priority. I love it, and whenever I get an opportunity, I use my traveling fund to travel. So rule number 2, know who you are, use your money wisely, and make sure that that money brings you a lot of happiness, because there's no point of money unless and until it buys you certain things that will get you happiness. Today's world, a lot of people feel very insecure with not having a lot of money in their bank account. In my opinion, as an accountant, And as an advisor, I would always tell my client that you don't need more than 6 months worth of expenses in your bank account. Because let's say you lose your job, let's say things go drastically wrong, you should have the confidence that within 6 months you will stand back up on your feet and things will go back to normal. The aim is always to have 6 months worth of expenses in your bank so there's no stress, and the rest of the money you need to start investing it so that it starts working for you. It is no secret that rich people invest in two things. The first thing is property, and the second thing is the stock market. The reason they invest in property is an essential. Regardless of what happens, people will always need houses. After a few years of me saving money, a friend of mine came to me and said we should start a property business. I had absolutely no idea about property, to be honest, and it goes against the rule of investing that Warren Buffett actually said that you need to invest in things that you have knowledge about. But my instinct was somehow pulling me towards it. And I took a chance. I took probably 85 to 90% of all my savings and put it into that business. What I wanted to explain with this particular point was that your instincts and self-confidence are very, very important while investing. Instincts are instincts, they're just there. You need to try and tap into it. And if you watch part 1, I do speak about how to kind of know what your instincts are. And self-confidence comes from actually making lots of mistakes and overcoming them. So knowing my background, moving here to Australia when I was 21 years old, there were a lot of things that I had to overcome. Overcoming those obstacles gave me a lot of self-confidence. So I knew if I put my money into this business and if I actually put a lot of effort into learning and give it a lot of time, I would do well in that business. That's why I actually put in all the money. Moving on from there, what I did is I continued saving, continued getting back my 6 months worth of expenses in my bank account, and also making a few bad investments here and there in the stock market, because I did want to expand to that and I did not know much about the Australian stock market. So I lost a bit of money in bad investments. It is a part of investing. You will never always make money. There are going to be times where your investments don't go as well, but you should never be like, just because I lost a bit of money in the stock market, I'm never going to invest back in it. I continued to save from there. Last year, I hit the jackpot when the pandemic hit. I know this is a bad thing to say, but I hope you understand where I'm coming from. I'm not trying to be condescending or anything, but I just saw opportunity. The share markets around the world tanked. People were just helter-skelter. They didn't know what's happening. They were panicking. But one thing that Warren Buffett had said is that when the world is greedy, you be cautious. But when the world is cautious, you be greedy. So I saw the entire world be cautious, but I said, you know what, I'm going to take a chance. I have built up enough knowledge about the Australian share market. I took a huge chunk of my savings and put it in the stock market. That money has grown by 50 to 60% today. So because of that investment last year, I have come to a point where most of my travel is paid for by dividends and return on investments, like rent and even from the managed fund. If you think what happened last year in the pandemic was people were stuck in their homes, that meant that people were going to be bored, which meant they would subscribe for Netflix. So Netflix share price rose a lot. If you followed the news, a lot of the governments around the world were giving out huge chunks of money to people just so that they could survive and not go to work. Now, the funny thing is that a lot of people don't know how to save. They always go and buy things when they see cash in their bank account. But there was a huge supply chain issue last year, and Amazon completely solved that because they had such good infrastructure. Amazon share price went through the roof. Apple came up with a new product, people bought it, and something they did which was absolute genius was not sell the charging brick with the phone. That meant more revenue, that meant share price went higher. What I'm trying to say is that if you have that kind of mindset where you're thinking, what is the situation of the world today and what type of industries are going to do well in this situation, and if you can buy something just before it explodes, that's when you do really, really well. That comes down to having knowledge, that comes down to giving it time. And if you start making even small amounts of money in the share market, automatically the interest will come and automatically you'll be reading small articles here and there and starting to build your knowledge. My advice finally would be to start small, start where you are, start by saving small amounts of money, start by investing small amounts of money. And you should start having these discussions with people around you as to what do you think about this share, or how do you buy these shares, or how do you sell these shares. Another thing that I have invested in is cryptocurrency. I don't have much knowledge about it, so I can't really speak much about it. but I'm learning and I've put a reasonable amount of money in that platform. Anyways, trying to make your money work for you is not easy. It requires knowledge, it requires a bit of skill, a bit of instinct, and above all, it requires the understanding that in today's world, the way it is, we need to invest in order to have a good future. Just one stream of income is not really going to be enough for us, say 20, 30 years down the line, and hence investments are very important. We need to make our money work for us. We need to spend our money in things that we enjoy so that our lives are fruitful and our lives are happy. It doesn't matter if I go and buy, say, a Range Rover, even though I do really want to buy a Range Rover. But if I buy that by giving up travel, I would not be doing justice to myself. If I can buy that and travel at the same time, then I would say that I'm doing well in my life. Yes, material things are important, but you need to arrange them in a priority list as to what gets you the most happiness. It simply comes down to that. And your investment strategies just need to complement that. That's about it for this video. Thanks so much for watching. I'm very grateful for your time and hope you tune in for the next video.